happen to wildlife? The animals in the zoo. You're breathing so hot. A lot of political nonsense in the air. You're making it hard for the people who live in there. You're moving so fast, but baby, you know not where. Wildlife, what's gonna happen to animals in the zoo? Oh, oh, you'd better stop, 'cause animals everywhere. Man is the top, and animal too. And man, you've just gotta care. Wildlife, what's gonna happen to wildlife? The animals in the zoo. Breathing a lot of political nonsense in the air. You're making it hard for the people who live in there. Oh, wildlife, what's gonna happen to wildlife? Animals in the zoo. Wildlife, whatever happened to
Oh, I love that song. I hear that a million times. I still love it. Hello, everybody. What's happening? A wonderful and sunny and cool and hopefully not as smoky Sunday afternoon to all of you. I hope. Certainly beautiful here. However, little bit of smoky smell in the air. Okay. Um, I've had a lot of people talk to me about or asking me about, how the animals react to this, type of uh, situation where there's wildfires and what have you. And you know, this type of thing has been going on a long time. Okay, um, of course, much longer than we than we even know. So, um, the animals, as we've always come to learn, when in the end, I hear lots more people saying, um, let nature sort it out. When I see certain posts of animals needing help when they actually don't. So people are recognizing this, and this is good. I like that. And so, uh, um, you know, um, I'm just uh, happy that we have to worry about ourselves and each other and our neighbors and the elderly and stuff. Believe me, the animals know how to take care of themselves. The birds will either fly above it or below it, or get to the ground or under the canopy, and what have you. You can't escape it in certain areas, but um, then they move to areas where they can. Okay, so the animals will fare nicely. I haven't heard of any issues. Of course, when there are forest fires and animals are endangered of being burned, that happens a lot as well. And of course, a lot of rehabbers and rescue personnel come out in force, and they tend to work it out and help. That's when nature and humans come together and do wonderful things. Um, See, it does happen every now and again. Um, Not always, but it does, and that's always a good thing. Okay. So today, what I had planned, and I'm not ruling it out yet, but I had a guest who was going to come on. Now he had to work late, and I really kind of pressured him into this. I think over the last 2 days, and I knew he would be anxious to get on. It's just that his schedule is tight, and I know he's gonna try to pop on, and if I see him on the computer that he has made it from my very, confusing but my confusing instructions, but really they're very simple. However, anytime I give instructions, I always make them at least 3 times as more complicated than they really are or should be. So if Frank does figure it out, we're going to have Frank Vincente from the Wild Dog Foundation um, on, and we're going to talk canids. And if we don't, it is entirely my fault, and for rushing Frank into this. Look, he got off at 4:30, so he said he'd get home at 5, and he'd try to get on. He said he wasn't that computer savvy, but I think Frank will figure it out. He's a good egg, and I really hope he can. But if not, we're going to get him on. Meanwhile, what we'll talk about is, and if he does come on, we'll stop and we'll pick this up somewhere else. But it is important that we were the subject matter that I had as a backup is what we're going to go to. First of all, I want you to see outside and show you how what a beautiful day it is. I mean, it really is. It's absolutely beautiful. A few of our neighbors are out. They're enjoying it as well. There's been a lot of fishermen out this morning, and of course, the sky is, as you see it, is beautiful. There is a wind, um, and it's keeping things cool. I think it's 75 degrees out, so it's really nice, and the sun's out, and the smoke isn't too bad. There's a little hint of it, but not terrible. Um, so, what I wanted to discuss was a couple things. Okay, very simple. And as we pick up to what we were discussing last week, and that is a wildlife management plan. Okay, uh, the eastern end of Long Island doesn't really have anything, or what they have is obviously not working. And what you're left with is a decade long, if not more, population issue with the white-tailed deer that only gets more severe every year. And believe me, this is more of a human concern. In fact, it's equally a deer concern as it is a human concern. In fact, to me, it's more of a deer concern, as you all know. Okay, because this is not a healthy living situation for the deer as well. Okay, now you folks can do something about it. The deer can't. They can only deal. They can only deal with the circumstance that they're stuck with by the way you handle it. Okay. And if you don't handle it, which has been the scenario for as long as I can remember, at least the past 20 years, maybe more, you're left with what you have now. And I know this seems like a common subject, and maybe to a lot of you local folks, you're out on the east end of Long Island, you'd be like, well, it's really, it's kind of, it's not that bad, or sure it's bad, but I mean, what's the big deal? Well, obviously, then you haven't hit a deer yet, okay? Because it is a big deal, okay? Uh, Vehicle versus deer on eastern end of Long Island is so common that I think you folks have kind of forgotten how serious it really is. I in It's a rough way of getting my point across, but I really do. I think you folks kind of feel, when we talk about vehicles and deer, um, um, uh, it it, uh, it just seems like it's a more common occurrence because it happens all the time. You see a lot of dead deer on the roadsides. I know you do. Okay. And I'm sure many of you, if not the majority, have had a close call, if not struck a deer. Okay. Now, you can strike a deer, you can just like tap it and send the deer rolling across the road, and you both end up, after a little heavy heart beating and a little skinning of the deer, you both get up and you can move on. But then there's some more serious stuff. Okay. Now, personally, I've hit a deer. I hit a deer in Texas, and I was doing probably 75, which was the speed limit. Okay. And I saw it walking out. I didn't react by braking because I thought the deer didn't look at me. It was daytime, by the way, and it continued to walk. So I made that calculation in my head that I could see it had plenty of time to get to beyond the center of the road before I became in its path. Well, at the last second, something happened. Whether it stopped or I blinked, I hit it dead on, and it was a horrible situation because it totaled my truck, and it sent the deer flying, and I saw the deer flying. I saw it go yards away in the air and then go into a ditch. And it kind of freaked me out a little bit because I was actually eating at the time, and I was eating a burrito. And, and of course, it blew up and smashed in my head. And I remember picking pieces of scrambled egg out of my head, wondering if it was my brains because I was flustered. I mean, I hit this thing hard. Um, Deer can cause a lot of damage. Look, they're not out there looking to cause you injury or property damage, but that's exactly what's going to happen, folks. Um, if you don't do something about the population issue. Now, I'm not getting into a to the I'm not getting into the subject matter right now of what are you saying, Dell? Are you saying we got to cull these things? Well, no, that's not what I'm saying. But that's not what I'm not saying. I think there needs to be greater heads to get together. I discussed this last week. Okay. I mean I really am connected with the philosophy of Dr. Bill Crane, who says these animals, have a conscience and emotions, it's just not right to mass kill them. And then I brought up that, comment that, I did not quote him, but, Carl Safina wrote something in a book, about, I think it was Beyond Words, I think was the book, where it was, what animals are thinking or what they're saying, and it had to do with, in regards to the deer and the deer herds not doing well. They don't feel good. Their emotions are down. They're 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 what would be generally considered depression because their life quality, their living quality is very low. Okay, and this is not a good life for them. And I believe that as the populations continue to grow, you're going to have more health concerns, and that's health concerns with the deer, whether it's um, chronic waste disease or any blue tongue disease and anything. It's gonna the herds are gonna weaken. If I already know they've weakened. So they're gonna weaken more, and the more they weaken, the more they're gonna be vulnerable to disease. And, among these herds, particularly the ones on the East End, they will spread fast, okay? So, look, folks, it's an issue that needs to be discussed, but it has to be done a certain way. You can't just come up to the public, okay, which you have no idea the number of folks, that like the deer, that enjoy the deer, that find them beneficial in their life and on their property, animal rights people, animal loving people like myself. We don't want to see these animals hurting, and we don't want to see them killed. So it's a very hard situation to be in. It is. In particular, the deer, because there's very few options for solution here. Okay. And yes, folks, if you haven't figured it out, I'm slowly breaking in this conversation, and we're going to keep discussing it. And at some point, we will discuss the option of culling because it needs to be discussed amongst us. Okay. So that when we hear it from someone else, that we're not sure where they're coming from as far as loving and liking animals, then we don't have to hesitate and question them and be curious of their intentions, which never helps the situation. Okay. Um, um, what I mean is, we don't want certain people, let's say, for example, not for example, exactly, the town board. Okay. Five people or and a supervisor making the decision about whether animals should live or die. That's not their right to do. Okay, now they'll think it is, and of course, the state of New York, they think they go by the belief that they own the deer. If they're in the state, they own them. Okay, to me, that's ridiculousness. Okay, and that's why I have never. follow DEC regulations when I was on the eastern end of Long Island. When they told me I couldn't help a deer or I couldn't help an animal, no, sorry. Or I couldn't tranquilize that deer that needed to be tranquilized so that we could get it help. Sorry, you can't do that. Sorry, I'm going to do it because you don't have the right. The state doesn't have the right to tell me to take the life of a living thing or not to help a living thing in a life and death situation. The state can't make my mind up in that situation, and they can't make your mind up. So just remember that. It won't hold in the court. All right. And if it holds in the court of state, it certainly won't hold in the highest court. And that's all I care about. When it comes to animals, that's what I care about. Okay. I know what's good and bad, and it's all common sense. We can make those decisions, and we don't need a party of 5 or a trustee board of 9 or whatever to make those decisions. Okay, because they're not in the position to do that. These are living animals. These are living beings. So we'll figure something out, okay? And what may have to be done may not be a good thing. Or maybe we'll figure out a good thing. But let's do it together, okay? The and since the town isn't going to ask us, the animal loving community, to join in and help them make the decision, let's talk about it, get some ideas and solutions and decisions and thoughts and whatever we can pull together, okay? And then we can address it with the board or whether it's the town or the village or what have you, okay? Um, I, you know, uh, nothing's been done with the deer in a long time since the big failure of the white buffoons that came in and tried to think that they can, uh, you know, regulate nature with money. Okay. The Village Preservation Society's big failure. Okay. And then the humiliation of them to continue after that saying how successful it was. Can you believe that? Can you honestly believe that? Successful. Give me a break. Do you see any difference in your deer population, folks? All right. Enough of that. How about your raccoon population? See, you need management, folks. Okay. You need management, or you're going to end up with a beach. You're going to end up with beaches that are graveyards for infectious diseased animals. Okay. Number one, we've already seen that happen via the trustees, the town trustees. And we have rabies coming back to Suffolk County. And believe me, with the population of raccoons on the eastern end of Long Island, specifically Montauk, I'd be a little fearful. I'd be a little concerned. I'd hope that the town has some sort of protocol in place should there be another outbreak of a zoonotic nature or a rabies outbreak. Oh my God, can you imagine? And believe me, folks, things like this can happen. I think we all remember the wonderful veterinarian. Now, a veterinarian in Montauk passing away from hantavirus. I mean, crazier things have happened, folks. And not having a plan in place, well, you're just sitting there. You're just sitting there asking for trouble. And folks, you don't have that plan. Okay? You don't have it. And it would be simple to make. You just take every point of concern, everything that's possible to come your way, in regards to wildlife, and you discuss it, and you make regulations, or set rules in place to manage these uh, the wildlife, these particular species. Okay, it's too late for the deer and the raccoon, but there's other issues on the way. Flying squirrels are going to be a big headache, a big headache. Okay, and of course the gray squirrel populations are always increasing every year. Okay, and the raccoons have 13 up to 10. I get confused. So many animals. I have so much information in my head about wildlife. It's okay. I get confused every now and then. 10 babies in a litter for raccoons. Okay. Average is about 4. Yeah. But I've pulled I've pulled raccoons out of attics with 10 babies. Easy. Several times. Okay. Um, so you need these management plans. Why? For so you don't end up paying for personal injury, and of course, back to this picture, property damage. Okay, because that can get very expensive, and personal injury can get really serious. All right, so what do we do? We have to keep discussing it. However, I did get a message from Frank. I did see your message, Frank. Frank was having trouble logging in, so we're not gonna connect with Frank, but we are gonna connect with him. Hopefully, we'll do it next week because I have a lot of great questions for Frank to talk to him about the canids and the on in the United States, and talk about the coyotes on Long Island, and some great questions related to canids on Long Island. I've written several down, um, and there's a couple questions I want to know about canids around the world. I mean, we were talking briefly about jackals, and and I was wondering how they became true dogs, and I find out that the coyote is called a nickname is the American jackal. So the jackal is very closely related, um, certainly biologically, with the coyote, and that's why when Frank had mentioned to me before that true dogs were that small group, and that was like wolves. Well, anyway, foxes weren't true dogs. It was coyotes, wolves, jackals, and whatnot. And this was interesting. I never thought about jackals, so I wanted to talk to him about that. And then, of course, then I see dingoes and deholes, and so Frank, I'm going to have a bunch of questions for you, my man. African wild African dogs, and um, I just have a bunch of questions. So it's pretty good that we're gonna delay a week. Um, we'll get it together for next week, folks. All right, Frank's a great resource for knowledge and education when it comes to canids, or wild dogs, as we'll refer to them right now. All right, so back to our conversation. We were talking about vehicle strikes and deer, really. Um, and it's simple. Of course, we know driving during deer season, stay alert, be cautious. Of course, I could say this stuff a million times, but is it going to happen? Do people slow down? I always tell people, you got to listen to wildlife. Wildlife talks to you. Wildlife tells you things. And what the deer does is it tells you to slow down. That's the deer's job, telling you, look, we're trying to help you humans. slow down, relax. It'll ease your stress, it'll calm your life a little bit, and we'll both live another day. Okay, so take advantage of the advice that the animals give you. Sometimes just open your ears. You don't have to tell people you're listening to animals. You don't have to tell them that you're taking advice from a Virginia opossum. No, you don't have to do that. I'll do that because people already know I'm a little wacky when it comes to wildlife. But you guys, you don't have to do it. Just practice it, okay? That's great. I apologize if I sound a little funny. As you can see, I got my pearly white in, and it is. Believe it or not, I was getting used to the missing tooth, and I kind of acclimated to speaking without my tooth. Now with the tooth in, I find I'm having to learn a little bit. I'm sure I'll be cleared up by next week, but right now I'm having a few issues, so just bear with me. Thank you. Okay. Now, the next thing I wanted to show you, I pulled this up deer crossing season. Tips to keep you safe and your family safe. We know all this stuff, folks. All right. We know when the deer are active. You folks know they're crepuscular. All right. Well, on the eastern end of Long Island, they're everything. They're diurnal, they're nocturnal, they're crepuscular, they're the whole thing. But they're most active at dusk and dawn. And that's what crepuscular means. And that's when you need to pay the most attention. That's when they're the most active and they're getting into their mindset for either the evening or the more relaxed daytime. Okay. And then, of course, folks, look, those signs are there for a reason. I was thinking about this just yesterday and I was driving along the road and I'm like, I seen the deer crossing sign, but did I ever think why it was put there? Not really. I'm always looking out for deer, and I don't speed either. I'm a big wuss in a car. I hate going fast, but and I'll also pull over. If you pull up behind me, I'm the guy that'll just put his hand out the window, wave to you. Most of the time, with all five fingers, I'll wave to you. Unless you're really riding my ass, then I'll give you the one finger wave. But I'll always pull over and then wave you on, 'cause, I'm not in a rush anymore, especially in a car, or a truck. But when I see a deer sign, a deer crossing sign, you'd be surprised how many people take, uh, uh, what's the word? Oh my gosh. Anyway, ignore it, okay? And they just don't really think about what they just saw, and they just keep driving, and they really don't, register that they just passed a sign that was put there to help you and tell you these are common areas where deer cross from one side to the other for whatever reason. Most of the time, it's from wooded area to wooded area. Okay. But we're going to discuss another reason in a minute, and we'll wrap it up with some good information. Um, Making noise when you see deer on the side of the road or in the road, sure, why not? I like those deer things. I used to give them away to people when I had Hampton Wildlife and Wildlife Rescue. I always had them on hand, and when I saw people that would talk nicely about the deer, I would offer them to them, and they'd stick them on their front bumper. And believe me, it helps. It's more of a silent whistle. It's not completely silent, but it's not. You're not going to drive down the road with like a train whistle either. So it's just a good sound for the deer to be alerted that a car is on the way, because it kind of changes pitch as you get closer to the deer. And of course, as you drive away from them, they know it's then safe to cross. And these are things that animals remember. These guys are smart, folks. Animals are not stupid. Do not be fooled. Okay? Always wear your seatbelt, folks, and don't text and drive. It's just It's just not safe, and it's not good for you, and it's not good for the animals, right? Um, there's the sign again, all right? If you see the sign, just think about the sign. Don't just see it and drive by it. Think about it. It was put there for a reason. If you've seen that sign in the same place for 10, 20 years and you're a local and you've never seen a deer cross that area, just simply go up and talk to on the East End. Go to the town highway department. Talk to Stephen Lynch down there. Tell him. I'm sure he'll have a nice discussion with you. And if he feels that the sign should remain in that area, then they have the data that says they should, and they do. They have some good data on these deer strikes. So they have a great map of deer strike. And if they think the signs are still good there, but maybe they don't. Maybe nobody's brought it to their attention. Maybe they can look at it, cross reference with their data, and if they haven't had any strikes there, maybe they would be. They might think about moving it or taking it down. Um, look, you know, you have to have discussions, okay, with these people. You can't just sit back and bitch and complain. You have to try. Now, look, you may not get the answers you want from the highway department, from the village mayor, from the supervisor of the town or the board members. You might not get the answer you want, but they're all going to let you talk. They're going to hear you out. And believe me, if you have something that is sincerely worth looking at, um, I would be inclined to hope that those in the leadership position of government, local government, would think about um, you know uh, uh, recommending a sign or some change or a crosswalk or perhaps something that we're going to be discussing in just a second. Okay, what do you do when you hit a deer? This is a big problem out east. Because what do you do? Oh, frick. People hit deer and they just drive on. It's like boom, boom, big deal. I often wonder when they have damage to their car, do they just go and pay it or do they call the insurance and say, I hit a deer and then what? They got to have hair in their deer hair in their the seam of their quarter panel to prove. I mean, I don't get it. Why do people drive on? Why did they drive away? Of course, the first thing that comes to mind is they could care less about the condition of the animal. Well, that's where this bothers me, and and that's why we have this show, okay? Because to me, that's priority. Well, okay, look, you hit a deer real good. Hopefully, you're smart enough to examine yourself real fast and know instantly whether you're okay or not. And if you have passengers in your car, certainly you want to turn around or turn to them and make sure that they are okay. Sure, priority. If your car is smoking, if you smell gas, yes, priority. You're going to want to get out. But if all that is non-existent, you just hit a deer and you just kind of stopped and you're wondering what to do, don't just then drive away. Think about the deer for a minute. I mean, I know to some people that sounds ridiculous. But again, folks, this is a living species. This is a living animal. This is a living thing, okay? That has a family, that has siblings, may be pregnant with a baby, just the same scenarios that it could be if it's a human being. And you certainly wouldn't drive away if you hit a human being. So, why can't you just take a moment to pull over, turn your flashers on, and look, if somebody's injured then of course call 911 or call a non-emergency line. Let them know, the police department, even just let them know you just hit a deer, and they'll ask you whether you want to file a report. Bing, bang, boom. At that point, okay, check the deer. Okay, you don't have to go up and get on your hands and knees and check for a heartbeat or put a mirror in front of its nose. Just look at the animal. If that animal is alive and breathing, if its eyes are blinking and condensated air is coming out of its breath on cold nights, okay? Don't leave this animal alone. Come on, people. Use your friggin' heads. All right? Call someone. Call, and when I mean someone, call the wildlife center. Call the police department. Let them know where you are. Certainly at night, the wildlife centers won't be open. Okay. But during the day, they will. All right. And if they say they can't help you, you call the police. The police will come down and hopefully these guys, gosh, the police officers in East Hampton Town and Village have to have done this so many dozens of times. And, I'm sure there's some more empathetic police officers than others. Okay. Just like people. Okay. And that's okay. All right. Hopefully you'll get an empathetic officer to come help you and do it quick and dispatch, which means put down the animal um, quickly and humanely. Okay, which is the least amount of suffering. All right, and of course, it wouldn't help to have a local. What I used to do is I used to respond to them to make sure that they were not savable. Um, and then, of course, I learned real quick that the majority of them aren't because the veterinarians aren't allowed to operate on them. So it was kind of a bad situation. But what I would do in a lot of cases would be if they were all broken up and real bad, in bad shape, but still alive, I'd sedate them. In fact, sometimes I'd double sedate them. Okay. And then sit with them until they passed, all right, or until they were in a state of of nowhere land, and then had the police officer dispatch the animal. Okay, and that's the way I felt it was best for the animal and for anyone that was around. Okay, so that's the situation. Okay, folks, look, there's a way that you can really stop this issue with the deer on the road. I can tell you exactly why it's happening, and I can tell you how to make it stop happening. And I can guarantee you, once again, I'm always guaranteeing you stuff because I know it works. Just nobody gives it the try. Okay? It's guaranteed to keep the deer off the road. Guarantee. And where they do cross on the road will be a specific, maybe a yellow crosswalk, meaning for wildlife. Okay. And people will know maybe a flashing light at these crosswalks, a flashing yellow light with a deer sign. And this way, people will know that things have been designed for the animals to cross at this specific crosswalk. So when you see the light, you slow down because you know that it's a common crossing area. Okay. So how do I get these deer to go to that common crossing area? Well, here's your problem. Okay, folks. This is a common this is a common block. okay, on Eastern Long Island. Use your imagination. Okay, I've kind of written it out pretty plain and simple. You got your roads, you got your houses, you got your wooded area on both sides of the row of houses with 1, 2 roads in between. Okay, and deer in both the wooded areas. Now, what are those dashed lines, the dotted lines? That's your fencing. Okay. Now, you fenced your yard off. You fenced it so that you can keep everyone out. The mailman, your neighbors, your family, everyone. For some reason, you fenced yourself in because you apparently don't want to communicate with the outside world whatsoever. It makes no sense, but look, it's your house and your property. You can do what you want. However, you've made a situation here where the deer from one area has to go to get to the other area, has to travel along the roadways the whole entire way. And that's why you see deer on the road constantly. All right. So, how did the deer at the bottom wooded area get to the wooded area on top? Okay. Well, here's 2 ways. And it's all along the road because everybody's got fences. All right? So, how do you solve the problem, Dell? What's your big idea? Well, it takes a little common sense and a little courtesy and a little want to solve the problem. But what you do is you get all your neighbors and the people with your houses and you talk to each other and you say, look, I'm going to give about a foot on both sides of my property line, maybe 2 feet. I'm a foot to 2 feet. How about you do the same on your property line? We'll still put up our fences, but we'll make it so the deer can travel between our properties rather than on the road to get to the wooded areas back and forth. Okay? So, of course, in this case, you're still going to have the deer crossing the road twice, but here or in multiple crossing areas, as you can see on this, it would be 1, 2, and even on the ends, 3 and 4. You'd have these crosswalks. And that would let people know that these are common areas where wildlife, all wildlife, are crossing the roads because everywhere else it's fenced in and it's keeping you on the road. So, what does that look like? Of course, it would look like this. Okay? So, it would drastically, significantly cut down the wildlife being on the road. Okay? You'd still be protecting your property. You could still have that privacy and those fences. Heck, you could either have them chain link so you can watch the animals use the corridor, or you can have stockade so you don't have to be bothered. Whatever type of person you are. Okay? But this way, at least you're helping yourself, others, and the animals. It's a trifecta score, people. And it's common sense. And it's simple and it's called a wildlife corridor. And that's what you're looking at. Here's a plan. I drew it up for you. Now, if every home in East Hampton could do it, and they certainly could, of course, you don't need every home. Say on one street, 2 properties agree to make corridors. One at the beginning of one on the first third, and then the second third. section of your street, road, lane, or what have you. And then you'd have just two crosswalks to be concerned about. And believe me, folks, like I told you, the animals will absolutely 100% guaranteed use them. They will use them, they will stay off the road, and that will solve part of the issue. Now, look, if you don't do this, nothing happens. But if you do this, something absolutely, you will bring down the number of deer hanging out on the road. Does everybody see that? Does everybody understand this is absolute common sense? And I'm telling you, it's fact, it's factual information. So why not do it? Why not? Maybe you can do it amongst yourselves. Every street can talk amongst themselves. Maybe you can have a street meeting or a block party or whatever the hell they do nowadays. Okay, or talk to or people who just talk to their neighbors. You know, like I said, you don't need every neighbor to participate, and it'd be kind of amazing if you could get every neighbor on a block to be concerned about the animals. That would be a nice block. I'd love to live on that one, but I doubt it exists. Okay, and I hate to say that, but you know where I'm coming from. Okay, look, folks, there's a lot of ways that East Hampton can solve these issues. Okay, this goes for Sunrise Highway, Montauk Highway, Nappig Stretch. And I'm not talking about this is actually an AI simulation, if you haven't guessed, but it's quite common around the world, these things, including the United States, these wildlife bridges. And they're working and they're amazing. And not only that, besides the bridges now, they have the tunnels as well. Okay. So you can and all this is applicable. I mean, they have some tunnels that go under the road that are just 10-inch or 12-inch piping that goes under the road and allows turtles and small reptiles and animals like that to cross the road and without, in fear of getting hit by a car. Okay. So there's many things that can be done, and they can be done. These things are not for big cities or big suburban areas. This is for any place, anywhere. This works anywhere. Like I said, on a street, a road, a lane, an avenue. Okay. Whether it's a corridor, a bridge, or a tunnel. What would you do, folks? Okay, think about it. Okay, for next time we bring this up and talk about it. Okay, because we're fixing to shut down now. But you know how to contact me. Here's all the information. You can email me, text me, send me a voice message on a phone. You can go to comment and message me on Facebook on the Let's Get Wild page, on my Facebook page, anything. I'm so accessible. It makes me sick. Okay. So, look, give me some of your ideas. What are some of the areas on the eastern end of Long Island that could use a specific crossing area for wildlife? Think about it. How about, like, for example, well, um, um, that big stretch for a deer bridge? Okay, maybe. How about Hands Creek Road for a turtle and reptile tunnel under the road? I mean, what areas would you suggest? Maybe a bridge or a tunnel? Or what communities on the eastern end, in any of the places, East Hampton, Amagansett, Montauk Springs, Wainscott, Sag Harbor, what areas could easily set up wildlife corridors and benefit from that? Because they will work. We've already discussed that. That's factual information. You build them, they will come. Okay, folks, I didn't make that up. All right. Look, it's time to go. I appreciate you all always joining me on Sundays. And of course, I love doing the kid shows for the kiddos on Saturday morning. So keep with me, folks. LTV and I have been discussing putting both shows on LTV television on the east end of Long Island. So I'm very excited to get back on LTV with the good folks that I had such a great relationship when I lived there. And I was so happy that they contacted me, and I'm in the process of doing some paperwork and getting the details together. So that'll be another way to watch these episodes recorded. Okay, and I really appreciate the support, folks. All right. So until next week, I did it again. Wildlife matters, folks. All right. Don't forget it. I live by it, and it's okay. All right. I'm going to put up this picture here, and I'm going to play out our song with some credits at the end. I want you to look, some referrals for you, and some important phone numbers. And we, of course, will talk again next week. And hopefully we'll have Frank on. I really know you folks will enjoy that. Okay? Have a great week, folks. Great week, folks.
Taking a walk through an African park one day, I saw a sign say animals have the right of way. Wildlife, whatever happened to you're breathing so hot, a lot of political nonsense in the air.